So maybe 10 or 15 years ago, there were a couple of Canada geese that started to spend their winter here. And slowly over the years, there have been more and more geese. And I think that there are geese that are not migrating now in this part of the country. So every year, there's maybe 15 to 20 wild Canada geese that winter here. And they crop the lawns of the hotel, and they're able to survive. But it's hard for them. It's a really tough, winter is very tough for the animals. And I spent a lot of time watching them through the windows here. And I see them struggle through the winters, and it's a poignant sight. And yet they just seem to greet every day with enthusiasm. And it's a real lesson because there they are, and they're struggling along through every single day and every storm. And yet each morning they're so excited to greet the morning and to be alive. And I want to go through life like that.
Like a goose.
Like a goose, yeah.
That's very cool. You ready, everybody?
Yes.
Yes, cool. And okay.
You know, I think about a musician. If they love playing and they love that zone they get in when they're playing, that's sort of like the photographer photographing. But if the musician can then find a piece of music that speaks to his soul, and then if he can play that, it's like he's got it all. Then he's got the thing he loves and the act of playing, and he's combined that, and it's a powerful and wonderful experience for him, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'd go one step farther. I'd say it's not about the place that you love. It's about the love that you have for the place. So that's what comes through. It's not that you're showing us rocks and ocean and, you know, clouds and ducks or whatever. You are showing us a relationship between you, or I might even say between humanity and these places. So it's not about you, it's not about the place, it's not about photography, it's about the relationship between the place, you know, I could almost say the planet, but specific places and our relationship to them. That, to me, is when photography becomes particularly interesting, because now it's something that everyone can relate to. Even someone who knows nothing about photography, nothing about art. I mean, to use your example, those of us who aren't musicians can feel that connection that the musician has with the piece of music they're playing and the love between the two of them, even though we can't play the instrument. That's what we're trying to do. It's just that our instrument is a camera and our medium is images and words and books and exhibitions, and where, unfortunately, photography has become such a thing in the world that a lot of photographers think it's all about photography.
Yeah, I've just been around some photographers, and I feel like we're not really on the same page, you know, because I don't feel like they have any connection to what they're photographing. And I think it shows in the work, too, you know, somehow.
Yeah, a good friend of mine years and years and years ago said, I would much rather take an artist and teach them the craft of photography than to take a photographer and try to teach them how to make art.
That's great, yeah. I grew up in New Jersey on the edge of the Great Swamp National Wildlife Refuge, which is a big open area set aside for migrating birds and animals. My parents were the kind that just opened the door and booted us out, me and my brother. My favorite thing was just to go out into the woods. I'd bring the dog, and we'd go off and have adventures, running around barefoot through the woods. I think that's when I first realized that being alone had its advantages. It was peaceful, and of course the natural world was vastly interesting to me. You know, the mushrooms and the ferns and the beauty of it all. And there was something extra adventuresome feeling about it, you know, that just being by yourself out there. Yeah, it was a great childhood. It was just full of wildness and days alone. And well, I had the dog, so. And a friend of mine had a summer house in Boothbay Harbor, Maine. She and her parents took me, and I saw the Maine coast for the first time, and it was rugged and, wild. It fit my picture of, the romantic ocean image. And from that day forward, I knew I had to get back to that. It feels like home, but in a slightly scary way that the Jersey Shore never imparted. So there was this wild edge to it, which is the same edge that I used to feel leaving the house as a kid and going off into the woods. That slightly risky thrill of taking your life into your own hands in some way. The romance of the sea got me at an early age. And when I was growing up, somehow I found images of tall ships, and I was drawn to that. I found them to be beautiful, and I put posters of tall ships on my wall as a little kid. I fantasized that I would somehow go to sea when I got older. And at that time, I wasn't interested in photography. I didn't really think about it in any way. But my brother, who was on the same ship for a little while, and then he signed off, he gave me his old 35mm camera that my mother had given him, which was great for me because I felt like when I went to sea, the things I was seeing were so beautiful and stunning and moving to me that I became an inveterate pointer. It seemed like other people weren't, noticing these things, so I felt like I was always pointing them out. And I know that could be annoying, so instead, the camera for me was a way to show them what I was trying to show them, but without being there between them and the thing itself. So it seemed natural for me, and once I realized that I could do that with the camera, that I could capture these moving and beautiful scenes, I was all over that. So getting on the ship for the first time was thrilling. It was a real sense of adventure. We'd cast off the lines and leave the dock, then we'd head out just towards the open ocean, and the land would fall behind and disappear, and we'd be out there. Any place that still has wildness and it has that untamed quality, that's really what I'm a junkie for. That's what I seek. So going to sea as a sailor, that gave me it as well. Even though I was surrounded by people, there was still that feeling there.
I just feel like the sensibility of the island, it's a perfect match in a way in terms of
temperament.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, the temperament, you just seem like a very calm individual, going with whatever comes your way,
Yeah, I did describe it to a friend once, that on the island, whatever mood strikes you is what you go with. It's kind of like the weather, whatever comes along naturally. And so on the island, if I feel sad, I just cry. There's no one to see, there's no one to judge, and it's kind of a beautiful thing. It's cathartic, and if I'm joyful, I'll run and I'll jump and I'll, you could be whatever you want to be on the island when you're alone. There's no judgment.
Do you do that?
I do, yeah.
Do you have moments of like where you cry?
Yeah. I think I tear up more when it's just so profoundly beautiful and moving what I'm looking at, and I just find that there's tears running down my face. And it's not because I'm sad, it's because I'm full with so much emotion I don't know what to do with it, and that just happens. The islands are called the Isles of Shoals. So there's 9 islands. Some are just a rock sticking from the sea. The islands have been inhabited since the 1600s. Why it was called the Isles of Shoals is that the fish were so plentiful that you could practically walk out upon the water on the backs of the fish. There's so many shoals of fish. So the first communities of Europeans that settled here were all about the fishing. And it was a real rugged community back then. It was just, ramshackle shacks, and there was a chapel at some point, but it was made of wood. And the story goes that the locals disassembled it and burned it as firewood because, winters are tough. I felt fear here of the elements. The storms are fearsome, and they just rage around the house. But I like that. I like that feeling of being somewhat afraid. It makes me feel alive. I've seen enough of people. I've seen the news, and I know that there can be a lot of bad. But here on the island, nothing's intrinsically bad. Nothing's trying to hurt you from malice. It's all just nature doing what it does. So I prefer when there's a storm because I don't have to wake up at night in the calm and think, oh, is that a boat? When there's a storm, it keeps the island safe because nothing can get out here except the natural elements already here, and to me that just feels safe. So
yeah, it's straight and sincere.
It's sincere, yeah. I don't like a lot of clutter where I live in winter because I want my attention to be outside. So the windows are my decoration, and I keep the windows clean so that I can see out very easily. After each storm, I go out and I wash all the salt spray off the windows again. And it's kind of like the geese are just outside and they're preening their feathers, which they do every day. I'm out there washing the windows, and they look over at me, and it's almost as if they understand. Oh, there she is. She's preening her house. They were similar. I definitely feel a connectedness here, not just between myself and everything that's here, but between all of the elements here and each other. I think we're all tied up in this web together. We didn't come out of it as humans, and then there we are standing on top of it. We're still connected with it, and it would be lovely if we could recognize that again. December 2nd, 2011, Winter Journal. I could feel the soft, chill breeze against my side, how my legs were tucked beneath me there on the roof, how I was looking outward from these eyes. I somehow imagine that this is how animals are at all times, highly aware of their environment and of themselves physically within it, their relationship to it. I think that they are more physically aware of being alive than we are. We understand it. They seem to know it. On the mainland, there are all these distractions. There's the modern world and the hum and buzz of social interactions, and moments of quiet are few and far between. So it's hard to be very clear for very long on the mainland. Here on the island, there's a sort of spaciousness of mind that happens because there are no borders to it. There's no expectation. There's no schedule. It's just a clear spaciousness of mind that happens. I think a lot of my creativity comes after I'm here for a long time by myself, and I start to feel uncluttered, and all my less important thoughts just fall into the surrounding ocean and they sink, and all that there are clear horizons and inspirations. Land ends and the sea begins at an ever-changing and compelling threshold. In the distance, the earth's curve meets the clouds in a long, straight line, as if marking the very edge of the known. Here lives the mystery of elements, of sea and of sky, and what lies beneath. There's something about solitude that centers me and that quiets my mind, and I start to realize what's really important. And that's where my creativity comes from. I just express these essential things. I've been doing a lot of rock portraits, I call them, in my photography, because rocks have something to say about time, deep time, geological time. They've just existed for so long, and they change so slowly and incrementally, and somehow they carry the weight of time lightly. And when I'm around rocks, I feel like I could exist within any time with them, you know, especially long cracks in rocks and ledges, because they lead outward and away, and they lead me out toward the edge and toward the horizon. And the horizon leads me even further. And I love vast distances. There's something about distance and time and how everything is connected that fascinates me. And that's what I try to portray in my work. There's also something about vastness that is humbling. And I think that's something that's missing from the human race, is that feeling of being humbled and being surrounded by the sublime and feeling small and also feeling connected. Weirdly, feel small and connected.
To be a part of a bigger thing.
Yeah, to be a part of something bigger. You know, there's this thing called the oceanic experience, and it's this feeling that happens very rarely, and I've had this experience, and it happens in a flash, and you feel this intrinsic connection to everything, and you can sense all of time and you know, into the future and the past, and you feel small and connected, and it's this profound feeling, and it lasts for a few moments, and then your mind steps in and says, what is this? What is this feeling? How do I have this all the time? But it's impossible, and that's what makes the feeling go away. What's sacred to me is the sublimity of the natural world and how it makes you feel small and humble and grateful. The natural world is what we evolved from, and it has created us, and here we are, and it's beautiful, and it's amazing, and it has given us so much. It's a garden, and that's what I want to connect with. I want to get back to the garden. I want to show it reverence, and I want to do for it. I don't want to just take from it. I want to live there like we've always lived there, like all of the animals have lived there, and we've lost that, and I think we need to get back there.
There is this platform of light that is captured on the stones in the foreground, the middle ground, and then going well off into the background to the structures, which create a kind of presence, but they are not an indication of human activity. They're more abstract forms in the midst of this otherwise organized space, and anchor it in a very beautiful way. The sky here creates a sense of extraordinary calm. This particular piece enables me to go to a space, into a place that is inside me, and it is prompted by what Alex has managed to record that is outside of me. One of the issues that Alex's work has re-emphasized from my perspective, and I think the major challenge that the gallery has always confronted, is how do you enable people to see, not only to look. And the seeing is an invitation to engaging personally and emotionally, if not spiritually, with the images. I would say that virtually all of the artists that we've dealt with over all these years are called to their art. The notion in German of berufen, of being called in some way. And in her case, she's been called to recognize solitude, sacredness, and sublimity in the world around us. Brother Thomas's words come to mind. There are things within us that find resonance with things outside us.
You know, there are the greats of landscape photography like Ansel Adams, Edward Weston. They made the fine print. Ansel Adams's metaphor for that was the negative is the score and the print is the performance. So her working over the years to get her performance, her tones, the feeling of light, the texture on the grass, the creaminess of the clouds, that's all a kind of printing that people are still doing it, but very soon, you know, in the next generation or so, that'll be gone.
Black and white is kind of like the winter of photography in that there's no colors. You're seeing the forms of things and the shapes and the tones. I don't know. I just am moved by it. I use a medium format Mamiya 6x7 camera, and it's old and boxy and big, and I don't know, it feels organic. I've been using it for years now. In fact, I bought it, I think, 1996, and it was used when I bought it, so it's really old. I like that about it, though. You know, I like old things. In this instantaneous society that we live in, waiting for 5 months to finally look at the film and see what images I got is really unusual. Sometimes I'm pleasantly surprised, and other times I'm like, oh well, you know, I'll get it next winter.
Using the expressive virtues of black and white film, Steiguer maintains a minimalist sense of composition that complements the lyricism of the organic world. Her approach magnifies the worth of each subject, exposing detailed texture and flowing form. With a variety of horizon-altering angles, Steiguer plays with viewpoint and scale, invoking the grandeur of skyward rock formations as gracefully as she elicits dainty flowers. Her subjects appear to possess personalities, and to me, they all seem like portraits. One of Steiger's most enchanting achievements is how she portrays interacting forces of nature. 3 pools of sky reflects the clouds. An angled sun transforms windows into mirrors in Tree in Wind. And limbs bend to prevailing winds in Denizens 8. And always, an incessant, invisible airstream commands the tenor of the sea, from inky opaque in Denizens 15 to shining silver in Shoals, Rock Pool 9. Steiguer has written gorgeous day journals, but none are included in this exhibit. Evocative as they are, her photographs render them superfluous. Her instinctive sensitivity and honed skills allow us to feel the auras of stillness and wind gusts, breathe the scent of salt, and catch the soothing rhythm of waves. De Steiguer's photographs proclaim the essence of belonging in eloquent whispers.
One day I will waft in the air. I will trickle down like rain. I will float on the sea. One day, all is me. And I won't